Hey, welcome back to Mobility Project. Today we're talking about how your body, one of the ways your body creates stability and unimpinges itself. The way most of your, both of your large kind of prime movers, think about kind of big engines of the hip, big engines of the shoulder, the way they work and create stability is inflection and external rotation. You basically have a ball and socket with a sac around it. Imagine this is the ball of the ball and socket and this is the capsule sac. One of the things you have to understand about the way the body works is if I just put tension in the system, say with my hamstrings or with my kind of big hip flexors, even adductors, those are such large muscles crossing a big joint and having attachments so far away from the joint that in order to create stability, all I'm doing is hoping I can get enough tension and I still create this instability in the joint. The way that the capsule works and the capsule is set up is that once I create rotational torque or torsion through the system, then the system becomes very stiff and rigid, and now it's stable. Just tension through the system, not going to get enough, hoping at the compressive forces, no way. Your body's set up. And this is why even if you think, hey, why am I more powerful in external rotation? Boy, they even set up screwdrivers that if I put a screw in, it's externally rotating. This is why they're all set up for right-handed screws. That's why everything screws into that tight position externally. So you're going to see that same pattern throughout the body. Ball, start in the middle of the socket, boom. So here's what I want you to do is to feel that notion of torque in the hip. What I want you to do is put your feet straight underneath you. I want you to squeeze your butt as hard as you can, flex your quads, and try to spin and set that hip. This is how we would actively unimpinge the hip, create stability in the socket. External rotators turn on, and then prime movers can do their job because the hip has become stable in that position. Turn yourself out to an arbitrary 30 degrees, for example, and try to create the same amount of torque. And what you're going to find is that your torque capacity is diminished. Because I can't create as much stability in that position, I'm going to have to look for stability forward and backwards. And so when I kind of jump and land, we have further out, and I turn further, I can create even less torque, especially when I maintain an upright torso in this position. Right now, you imagine we're getting into some crazy ballet stuff. And if we talk to our professional ballet dancers, that you don't understand the demands of the pelvis when I'm externally rotated in these ballet positions, I have to really work on not being overextended, and they have to work on tucking, which is about maintaining this position, because default is to overextend. And what you're starting to see is that in order to create a stable pelvis on femur, I've got to create external rotation. And if I don't have this external rotation torque, I end up kind of defaulting forward and backwards into an open circuit fault. My body's going to close that off. The same way we see kids with poor stability, for example, cerebral palsy, and they walk in and they walk with spastic diplegia in this position, knees are in, anteriorly rotated, and the pelvis impinges on itself. So we're looking to create a kind of active unimpingement. If I turn the foot out 30 degrees, sure, I've unimpinged myself biomechanically, and that's great, but I haven't created any stability. And because the pelvis stabilizes on a femur, if I don't create that rotation, I can't stabilize the pelvis, boom, I overextend. So here's what we're working on today in order to improve those positions. I'm going to go ahead and start first, doing the big wind-up. I'm going to go ahead and work on being able to extend fully and not make sure that I'm kind of cheating around. So big load, maybe a couple hundred pounds, belly tight. I'm going to try to get that hip to drop back. And then what I'm going to do today is floss back and forth 100 times each leg. What we're trying to do here is not just a static stretch of the hamstring, but what we're going to do is bias the hip into a capsule position that we like. And we're going to try to make sure that that foot isn't broken. I'm actually thinking about externally rotating, trying to spin and create torsion. That's biasing, that's a position of emphasis, and then tacking past that position of emphasis. And you'll find that's deeply capsular. That's homework number one. Homework number two is to get that calf to pull back. So I'll drop my band down a little bit in this position. Have that pull me backwards. That's a little high. Then wind myself up into a calf bias position. Create that external rotation. Belly tight. And I'm just going to same thing. I just want to extend, bend the ankle, extend. And as I extend, I'm trying to externally rotate. A wall will work well. You could base a plate up on the wall here. That might also work well in this position. If you can't set up the band, don't worry about it. Create some nice big force, and then work on external rotating into that position as you press. Again, position of emphasis, then external rotation. Finally, if your short hip rotators are tight and ropey, and used to being in these kind of crappy positions, which is overly short. This is a short hip rotator position. If I haven't given my hip rotators kind of enough length-tension relationship, they can't pull because they're already at weak and end range. Show me how strong I am, not very strong. Mid-range, very strong. So, take your ball, stick it in your butt, 4 or 5 minutes each side, and then see what's going on. So unglue yourself, internally, externally rotate, pull those tissues past, test, retest, see how much torque you can create. Man, no wonder A.J. Roberts pulls with a pretty straight foot position. No wonder these guys are shoving the knees out, the Chinese lifters, creating external rotation, torque sets the back, allows for an upright torso, more powerful athlete. We do the things we do because it has a change in our performance only. That's the only thing we care about. See you tomorrow.